My name is Elena Carter, and I never imagined a single text could change everything I thought I knew about my family. It all began with an unexpected message from my sister, Lila. The words were simple, but the weight behind them shattered my world. Eleanor, I'm pregnant. But there was no joy, no celebration. There was something off, a tone that didn't belong to the sister I loved. My heart raced, a mix of confusion and unease settling into the pit of my stomach. How could something so natural, so life-affirming, feel so twisted? Before I continue, please subscribe. Your support keeps this channel alive. Now back to the story. For years I had protected my family in every way I could imagine. I had been the peacemaker, the one who bore burdens silently, the glue that held us together. And in that role, I had developed an unshakable trust in my sister. I thought I knew her completely. But that message made me realize I had been naive, blind to the undercurrents flowing beneath her smile and polite words. The family was about to be tested in ways none of us could have foreseen. The days following the announcement were filled with awkward phone calls and whispered concerns that should never have existed in a loving household. Family dinners became minefields. Casual comments from cousins or aunts were loaded with meaning, carefully avoiding the truth that everyone except me seemed to see. I tried to approach Lila with kindness, asking questions softly, hoping to understand her side. But her responses were vague, defensive, and at times cruelly dismissive, leaving me with a knot of worry and suspicion that only tightened with each passing day. Early pregnancy brought subtle, unsettling changes. There were unspoken truths, moments when I saw the fear in her eyes and heard her hesitation in conversations with our parents. Rumours whispered in corners, carefully crafted narratives of blame and deception began to seep through our family. I noticed my parents' strained glances, the tension in their voices, and the way my younger brother avoided eye contact with me at gatherings. The seeds of discord were planted, tiny at first, but with a root deep enough to twist everything it touched. Then came the breaking point. Lila made a decision that I could not condone, one that tore apart the fragile trust I had tried so desperately to maintain. She had involved someone in her pregnancy, someone whose intentions I knew were toxic, and by doing so, she had forced me into a choice I never thought I would face. Protect my sister and betray my moral compass, or distance myself and risk losing the family I had spent my entire life safeguarding. The arguments that followed were fiery, charged with accusations, tears, and bitter silences that hung in the air like storm clouds refusing to dissipate. As the dust settled, I realized the relationship with Lila had become irreparable. I consciously stepped back, creating distance where before there had been nothing but closeness. Every holiday, every family gathering, became a careful dance around the tension she had manufactured. I watched as the family began to fracture, subtle alliances forming along invisible lines. My parents, torn between love for both daughters, oscillated in their opinions, while cousins whispered judgments that I could neither fully counter nor ignore. It was a war fought silently, in glances, in withheld words, in unspoken judgments, and it left me exhausted, angry, and heartbroken. But beneath the hurt and the betrayal, a resolve began to form. Years of being overlooked, of silently carrying the weight of familial responsibility, had not been wasted. I understood the game now, the unspoken rules Lila had twisted to her advantage, and I realized that if I wanted justice, if I wanted the equilibrium restored, I had to act, not with blind rage, but with calculated precision. I meticulously documented every slight, every lie, every manipulation. I ensured that when the time came, the truth could no longer be hidden behind her lies or the sympathies of a divided family. When I finally revealed what I had uncovered, the reaction was seismic. Lila's web of deception unraveled in an instant. Family members, who had once whispered doubts in corners, confronted her directly. Her alliances collapsed, her excuses fell flat, and she was left exposed. The pain she had caused was returned in full measure, not cruelly, but decisively. It was the justice I had been silently plotting for months, and it felt surreal, finally watching her face the consequences of her choices without the protection of her manipulations. In the aftermath, I felt a heavy sense of relief. The family, though still fragile, began to recalibrate around the truth. I regained my voice, my authority in matters that mattered, and most importantly, I reclaimed the peace that had been stolen from me by deceit and selfishness. Lila, now isolated and accountable, could no longer control the narrative or manipulate the hearts of those who truly cared. And as I stood quietly, observing the restoration of balance, I felt a deep, satisfying calm, a vindication born not of vengeance alone, but of patience, intelligence, and unwavering moral strength. The storm had passed, but the lessons remained etched in every corner of my life. I had been hurt, betrayed, and forced to watch the family I loved fracture. But I had survived, calculated, and restored a sense of justice that no one could take away. The pain had been real, the betrayal cutting, but the payoff, the knowledge that truth and patience would triumph, was far sweeter than any immediate retaliation could have ever been. And for the first time in months, I allowed myself to breathe fully, knowing that I had not only protected myself, but had also ensured that honesty and integrity would finally prevail in the family I had fought so hard to preserve.